How would you like to have the opportunity to own some very cool jersey merchandise? How about something that was used and worn by some members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I'm talking specifically about some things, about some Bon Jovi items that you actually have the chance to own. We're talking about handwritten lyrics, stage-worn jackets, just a great, great collection of things, and also some very cool baseball and sports items as well. My guest on the Miller Lite Jersey Central Newsmaker Hotline is going to tell you how you can have a chance to own these very, very cool pieces of rock and roll memorabilia. He is Dave Amerman. He is the auction manager with Steiner Auctions, and he's with us this morning to talk about all these great items here. Dave, good morning. It's Burt Barron. Great to have you with me here today, and this is some really cool stuff that you've got available here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bert. My pleasure to be here as well. We've got a really big auction event going on right now, and it all started with a phone call after our last auction. We sold some gold records, and then we got a phone call from someone from Central New Jersey, kind of home of Bon Jovi, and we've got a whole collection of stage-worn uniforms. I'm talking leather pants from the 80s. We've got it all in auction right now at Steiner Auctions.
This is great. So the stuff that, like, the band will wear it for a concert, and then it will go and it will be auctioned off because the people say, well, do you keep all your clothes? I'm like, well, a baseball player, after he plays a game, he doesn't need to keep every uniform he's ever worn. You know, why not do something with it, right?
Right, absolutely. I think in baseball, everybody knows that's kind of the thing now. So when you wear a jersey or two, you almost wear 2 or 3 a game. So it's gotten really popular to sell. But the rock and roll guys of the 80s, I mean, unless they were throwing things into the crowd, there wasn't a really huge market at the time. People just went to listen to music. But now when these guys are getting a little older and now all of a sudden their collections are turning up, and with Bon Jovi just going into the Hall of Fame, to be able to have, I think it's something like 7 or 8 different pairs of pants and these elaborate leather dusters that drag on the floor, tassels, rhinestones, embroidery, just amazing. They probably cost the guys $10,000 a piece back at the time to have them custom made, and now we've got them in auction starting anywhere from $250 to $400 to be able to get people in there to actually be able to own these items.
That's really awesome. And what kind of interests me, some things here with the keyboardist from Bon Jovi, David Bryan, who has done a bunch of things in New Brunswick, and he wrote some shows and much more than just kind of your typical rock star. He's done a lot of great things. How about some handwritten lyrics, which I think are absolutely priceless? When you get there, could you imagine having a Bon Jovi song with the handwritten lyrics? I mean, you got to be an uber fan to want something like that. But for stuff like that that's in demand, that is really something priceless to have for a Bon Jovi fan.
Absolutely. It's as close as you can get to the music. I've seen handwritten lyrics from different bands, particularly some guys from the 70s and big name, Jimi Hendrix, Beatles, things like that. And
wow.
These lyrics were $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I mean, insane amounts of money. So these lyrics here, these are dating to the late 80s, early 90s. But not only that, they have musical score. David, as the keyboardist, was pretty much one of the founders of the band, and he was probably maybe the most musically inclined, so I could picture him as the guy kind of keeping everything together. So to have him writing down the music with the lyrics and everything, that might have been the music that was actually used to create some of these songs. And we actually started these lots, 5 handwritten lyrics in each lot, and each lot's only starting at $100.
Wow, that's remarkable. And another thing that kind of piqued my interest was signed contracts. If you think about it, here's a contract that we signed to play a gig in 1987, and this is how much we were going to be paid and whatnot. Once the show is over, then the contract, it's like, well, what happens to it? Everybody's paid. It's kind of the end of the business transaction. I saw a concert poster not long ago of a Van Halen and Bon Jovi show. It was the summer of '86 in Philadelphia. The tickets were $14.50 each, ironically. Could you imagine Bon Jovi and Van Halen for $14? But signed contracts, that's kind of what it is. Like, maybe here's Bon Jovi playing Club Benet in Sayreville for so many dollars on such and such a day, right?
Absolutely, and the actual agreement we have in our auction goes beyond that. It was actually the agreement for David for his royalties and everything for the band of Bon Jovi. So it was almost an agreement for his share of the band. Now, the interesting thing about this is there's a handwritten letter that says, these are not the terms I would like, and you can speak to my attorney, and the handwritten letter is with the contract that's in the original envelope and everything like that. So these are the first time you'll ever see these things come up, and probably the last. Even
then, they were lawyering up over music contracts, even then. That's really cool stuff. Our guest is Dave Amerman. He's the auction manager, Steiner Auctions. They have this very cool fall auction that is going on right now. And this is going through November 10th. Dave, people can get their bids in on these great items here?
Correct. You can go to steinerauctions.com at any time from now until November 10th and place a bid. So you can go this morning and place it, or you can wait till the 10th and end up placing the bid. We have not only the rock and roll items from the Bon Jovi band members, but we also additionally have Grateful Dead signed concert brochures. We have the Beatles full-signed photos. So if you're into music, we have a Jimi Hendrix autograph. But then on the other spectrum, when it comes to sports, we have the jerseys the guys from the Yankees just wore when they hit the 264th franchise home run tying record, and then also the 265th when the Yankees set the record this year for most home runs by a franchise. We have the jerseys those guys wore when they hit those home runs. So that is something really awesome as well.
That is remarkable. And just so I understand how the process works, Dave, if let's say, for example, I want to bid on a jacket that David Bryan wore, I just put a bid in. I don't see what the current high bid is, do I?
If you go on right now, all the current bids are posted.
Oh,
so
okay.
You can actually see the high bid right there, and you'll know exactly the next bid you're placing. When you place the bid, you might be immediately outbid, or you'll get an email saying you're the high bidder. And then if you get outbid, you'll actually get an email at some point later on saying that, so you can kind of keep track of it, because these auctions come, and next thing you know, you go out that Saturday night and forget all about it. You don't want to miss out on the only chance you'll ever have probably to get these items.
No, definitely not. And with the World Series going on now, Dave, some other cool baseball things that you have on the block right now. How about a baseball bat that used in a game by Babe Ruth, who played for Boston at one time in his career? How do you possibly put a price on a bat that Babe Ruth used? That's really awesome.
Absolutely. It's very hard to put a price on it. All I can say is let's start as low as we can, and hopefully we'll get a couple people to go in there and bid it. It's actually a bat that was ordered for Ruth at the beginning of the 1923 season. So that was really right at the start of his prime time of his career right there. So that's an incredible bat. We also have a Thurman Munson bicentennial bat. We have Derek Jeter's earliest known bat. So there's tons of Jeter fans still out there. This is a 1993 game-used bat, and it came from the owner of the Greensboro Bats at the time. So it's the first and earliest known Derek Jeter bat. It doesn't even have his name on it. They actually wrote Jeter on the knob. So it comes from the owner of the team. Otherwise, there's really no way to prove that. So the items that we sell, we always have the provenance and the authentication so people know they're getting the real deal. Yeah,
and in fairness to Dodger fans who may be pulling for them in the World Series, how would you like to get your hands on the one and only original lease to Ebbets Field that the Brooklyn Dodgers signed in 1932? That's available too?
Yes, that's actually available. It's the original lease. We actually went as far as to call current ownership groups within the Dodgers organization and the ownership groups at the time to ask them, when we got this, if they happen to have a copy, and they all said, we have no idea where it went. And we got it, and it's in auction right now. It's signed by the owners. It was the lease that put the Dodgers in Ebbets from 1932 right to the end of 57, so right through the time Jackie made his debut and right until the time that the Dodgers went up and left for Los Angeles.
Man, and just a couple of other things that people might be interested in. Still the best ever, in my opinion, Dave. I know people love LeBron and whatnot, but I don't think there'll ever be another Michael Jordan. There was never a player who just would love to, who just would refuse to lose, his will to win. There's never been an athlete like Michael Jordan. How would you like to have some game-used Michael Jordan sneakers? I would probably sleep in them if I had a pair of those. I really would.
Yes, those are the Jordan collection, the Jordan shoes as a whole, not just in the sports world, just as the fans that wear Jordans for style now, they spend thousands of dollars on these shoes just fresh out of the box. We were lucky enough to get 8 different pairs of Michael Jordan game-used sneakers, and I remember Jordan game-used sneakers even back maybe 15, 20 years ago. You could get them for $3,000, $4,000. Some of those pairs, if you had been thoughtful enough to invest in them, they're now worth $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a pair. So the good thing with these shoes is you don't have to be a millionaire to get in. Some Michael Jordan shoes you can still get from certain games for $4,000 or $5,000. But then there's the iconic Eastern Conference Final championship pair, the 1988-89 pairs. Those are going to go for $20,000 plus. We even have a Wizards pair of shoes as well, which is really rare to see those.
Yeah, people forgot he played for the Wizards there toward the end of his career, but that's pretty cool also. And one last thing I want to talk about. When you want to see a boxer's legs, you want to see the best legs that an athlete has ever had. I mean, take a look at some of these pictures of Muhammad Ali. Now, that's what a boxer's legs are supposed to look like. How would you like to actually own fight-worn Muhammad Ali trunks? The greatest ever. He called himself the greatest, and everybody else called him the greatest, Dave, because he was the greatest.
Yes, and I can't believe I didn't even think of these trunks. These are the number one lot in our auction. They come from Canada, from the referee of his 1972 bout against George Chuvalo, who was a big Canadian fighter, probably one of the better Canadian fighters at the time. He took Ali 15 rounds in 1972 and gave his trunks to the referee, Davy Brown. He signed them. Angelo Dundee, his trainer, signed him, and they've had him in the family ever since. First time they've ever become available. And Muhammad Ali trunks in his big fights with Joe Frazier and things like that, those have sold for several $100,000. The boxing gloves that he wore fighting Frazier sold for $650,000. So these trunks right now, I think they're at about $7,000 or $8,000. But in my opinion, he's only had so many fights in his career, and to have fight trunks that come directly from a referee source is pretty much as good as it's going to get. So these trunks, in my opinion, should go for $40,000 to $60,000, if not $100,000.
Man, and Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne bleeder, he almost had him. He almost knocked out Muhammad Ali. He was so close. His life would have changed so much for a guy from Jersey that almost knocked out Muhammad Ali, but just wasn't meant to be, I guess. But for all this great stuff here, this great Steiner stuff, Dave, how does someone go and put a bid in on any of the things we talked about today?
If you go to www.steinerauctions.com, it's the Fall Classic Auction. So you'll just see a big banner right there. Just click the Fall Classic Auction. If you see an item you want to bid on, there's a tab you push. You go ahead and register. You put your contact information in there, and then you're able to bid on anything. There's really no qualifications involved. All you need is a valid credit card, and you can get in. Now, if you go in there and bid on something that's $50,000, I might give you a phone call just to make sure you're a real person.
Right,
Nothing
sure.
unusual is going on, because we certainly don't want an auction to end and not be able to sell the item to the highest person. But other than that, it's fair game. Everyone can get on right now and go ahead and bid.
Great stuff. So if you're a New Jersey rock and roll fan like I am, and you want to get your hands on some of these original Bon Jovi items, get to that website and start bidding, that's for sure. Dave Amerman from Steiner Auctions, thanks so much. I enjoyed our conversation today. And anytime you get anything Jersey that you guys are auctioning, you let me know right away. I'd appreciate it, okay?
You got it, Bert. Thanks so much for having me.